Welcome to The Lost Signals Discusses Film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzar-Ramosi Thurlow scale,
or MONS,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Lost Signals Reviews Film and Television. Today, I have tasked these three pseudo-intellectuals.
I count as two.
I'm in the zone as Greg Davies. I have tasked my three friends here to watch Taskmaster Season 5 because I thought it was a good intro point for the series. I'm a huge fan of British panel shows.
I'm also probably second to you in terms of that.
And since they've uploaded most of the Taskmaster seasons on YouTube on the Taskmaster channel, it has saved my life during COVID quarantine,
and apparently many others.
So yeah, now I asked everyone here to force everyone to watch this. So the prize task for today is to come up with the cleverest opening lines. We'll start off with Scott Thurlow.
Shit and piss.
Christopher Morgan.
Fuck my wanker.
And
is that a clever line or just a Britishism that doesn't make sense?
And with me, as always, is little Stephen Armosi.
No. Oh, no. And I had just gotten a toilet paper rolled installed into my seat. You're not going to see that now.
All right. Well, I'm going with, should I start? Stephen, should I start high to low or high or low?
Go low. When they go high, we go low.
Chris, you were shit. You're getting 0 points. All right, 1 point.
I was
Steven,
shit. Wait, do you want me to explain what fuck my wanker?
No, if you have to explain, it's not a good joke.
Here, let me see what my wanker is.
Right.
Third place, Stephen Rossi, and with top score is Scott Thurlow over here.
Fucking hell.
Anyway, as I explained, I'm a huge fan of Taskmaster. In general, a lot of these comics that are on multiple seasons, I've seen every season.
Why don't you explain for anyone who doesn't know what Taskmaster is?
It's a creation of a comedian and all-around strange person, Alex Horn, who came up with this idea for just giving his friends who are comedians tasks to do. They turned it into a show. That got to be Greg Davies plays the Taskmaster with his assistant,
pretty much.
Alex Horn, little Alex Horn as he's known, who's a 6'2" man, but Greg Davies is 6'6", so I guess that counts. And basically, they have 5 comedians or personalities in Britain, and over the course of this series, usually 8 to 10 episodes, they have to do a bunch of tasks and are awarded points for doing so, and the winner wins a cheap gilded bust of Greg Davies' head.
I mean, they're fun, silly, like interesting little tasks.
Yeah,
we'll explain more of that, but that's essentially the premise of it. So yeah.
So as I mentioned, I'm a huge fan. Scott, what were your initial impressions of the series?
So technically, I have seen Taskmaster before, just not this series. You showed me 1 or 2 episodes. To be fair, this was Ian's brainchild essentially, but I knew about it. I knew of the series. I knew what it was, and I watched a couple episodes beforehand, and then we watched series 5, as you said. And yes, I'm a fan of Britishism stuff in general. So yeah, it's very highly enjoyable. They're about 45 minutes each, I think exactly that. And depending on who they have on, this is a good cast. They're all very highly entertaining in their own ways. And you sort of I think you end up having a favorite or someone you're rooting for throughout. And yeah, it's very fucking British. So it's packed with that kind of stuff, their mannerisms and the thing they, how they interact, their dynamic with each other and stuff. Especially Craig and Alex, and then Alex interacting with all the individual comedians when they do their various tasks, and then they get scored. So yeah, it's very highly entertaining. It's very watchable. It's super crushable, super binge-worthy, if you will. And yeah, I had a good time with it. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I was looking for I basically spaced it out. So I was all right, I'm gonna watch 2 episodes per day for the previous week. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I was all right, it's dinner time. I'm gonna watch Taskmaster now. And yeah, it's just super entertaining if you're into it. I feel it's maybe not even your mileage may vary kind of thing. I feel you're either going to love Taskmaster or kind of hate it. There's kind of I feel there's no really middle ground if you showed it to a sample size of people. But I certainly enjoyed it quite a bit, and this was a very good series. And yeah, it's just hilarious for the most part. and with like sort of a British angle stapled upon it. But that's my impression.
Yeah, I had a great time with this show. I enjoyed it quite a bit as well, and I actually ended up watching the last 2 episodes. Like most of this I watched in my room by myself, but I ended up watching the last 2 episodes in my living room with like my roommates and my brother's girlfriend was over, so they all got into it like right away. Like,
if it sucks you in, like you're gonna very much be into it and be like,
yeah. And it's definitely a fun show to watch with like other people around, and you know, you get some more laughs out of it, I think, that way. But
also, if you're alone, it's a good replacement for having friends. You
That's true.
Get to know all these people really
like
well.
I was.
And,
Yes.
Chris?
I really had no idea what I was walking into. When you said Taskmaster, the first thing I thought of was like, what's that gear or something or other, the cars thing? Top Gear, whatever. So I always like procedural things. Like I'm a big fan of cooking shows because I like the process as well as like cooking. So I had no idea. At first I thought these were like 5 randos. I'm like, they look kind of familiar. So then I looked them up, like, oh, they're all comedians. All right, I get it. I'm not really big about anytime they do this bullshit in America, I'm generally not a fan. I thought this was,
in fact, the American Taskmaster bombed horribly.
Actually, I did see a video on like why American Taskmaster is like one of the worst things ever. I think that was the name of it. Yeah, I quite enjoyed it, and I just thought it kept getting better and better because I did start rooting for people. But I just thought it might be a good time to mention this. My favorites was like Nish, Mark, and Amberlyn?
Ashling.
Yeah. So in true
very Irish name.
In true one of their idioms, I realized when I was starting the finale, I'm like, oh, I thought I watched episode 5. I guess I didn't watch episode 5. So I have to go back and watch episode 5. So I skipped a step.
I award you 0 points.
so I skipped a step. But I quite enjoyed it. It's really good. Beth missed the thing with the home movies or the making movies, which I thought was amazing. So I'm going to go back and show her that. But no, I quite enjoyed it. I love British humor, and I love the fact that that they can curse without having to be on like cable or Netflix or anything like that.
They don't do it often, but like when they drop it in, it's it's natural.
Other than Nish.
But in this country, we got people blaming gun violence on violent media, and violent media is about the only thing they'll allow in America. They won't allow sex, they won't allow cursing, but they'll allow violence. So it's really refreshing to be able to hear fucking shit all the time. So I was a fan.
Fucking hell, piss and shit.
Shit and piss. Piss and shit.
I mean, because on average, I think British people curse better than Americans do.
That is definitely true.
Yeah, they got a good flow to it.
Well, I think one of the great beauties of this show is the dynamic between Greg Davies and Alex Horn. They have a great, especially throughout the seasons, they have a great dom-sub relationship in a lot of ways.
I mean, they play it up.
Yeah,
it's very funny.
But occasionally, Alex gets his licks in. Again, I've watched everything. I watched even the New Zealand Taskmaster. So oftentimes it blends together. But Greg Davies and Alex Horn, I think, just their awkwardness. I think, as you said, Alex plays the great straight man previous to this, and also Greg Davies is just a gem.
I mean, Greg Davies is like a very British personality. Like he's been around forever, and like he has that bombastic kind of like overbearing, like sort of demeanor, if you will. So they play off each other very well.
He used to be a teacher, and you can see some of his teaching mentalities, mannerisms coming throughout this. Yeah, definitely. But of the 5 contestants on there was Aisling B, who I had known through 8 out of 10 does countdown, stuff like that. Bob Mortimer, who's a very famous absurdist comedian, and I think he's absolutely fantastic. Nish Kumar, who I was introduced to through this show. Also, Mark Watson, I think is an author. I was introduced, and Sally Phillips again. I was not familiar with her, although she quickly became my favorite of kind of a midlife crisis, or a woman saying, I can get away with anything I want on this.
Fuck it,
I'm going to go forward and do it.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, who are you really rooting for throughout the series?
Well, it's really funny. I think I saw Mark. Mark looked the most familiar, and I think I saw him on Graham Norton because we used to watch a lot of Graham Norton. I think
Graham Norton's great.
Like Greg Davies appeared on like there's a bit of crossover there, Chris. To your point, yeah, certainly.
Yeah. So I mean, that's probably why most of these people look familiar. Right away, Nish and Mark. I thought the two of them were funny, and I loved. Oh crap! What's her name? The Irish woman.
Oh,
Aisling B.
Aisling. I liked her acerbic-ness. I grew to like Bob and Sally more as time went on. I like that Sally's quite clever. I mean, they're both quite clever, and they're more. If you put them all together, they're more of the straight people, and the rest of them kind of bounce off of walls. I was still rooting for Nish up until the very end, even though I knew he had no hope in hell. So, like when they were like, "Hey, I can't believe this is the second time this season this has happened. This series this has happened. Nish has come in first, has gotten full points."
No, you're right. So, I mean, I would say around second or third episode. So, I grew to like Bob quite a bit. He became my favorite. I was rooting for him, and like you said, like, and the funny running gag to me, Chris, is like when they're like Alex would be like, "Okay, you want to see." Let's see Mark's attempt. Let's see Aishling's attempt. Let's see Nish. It's like, and now for the grown-ups. And it'd be like,
Yeah.
And like, you're right. Like, maybe because they just happen to be a little older and maybe have some more life experience, they approach the tasks a bit differently and a bit more, again, like, intellectually, I guess I want to say, like, cleverly, as you said, right? So I became a big fan of Bob. I was rooting for him, and he ended up, spoiler, he did win this series, and I think rightly so. But of course, Nish was just the most highly entertaining one because he often would fuck up a lot, or like would just be like fucking whatever, like, right.
But his enthusiasm in the face of challenge was amazing. He throws
himself into every task, no matter what it is. And like, I'll talk about something else I want to say later. But to answer your question, I became rooting for Bob, number one for sure. I like Aisling, of course. Like, she's just very, and she also like pushed against the sexism of the series as well. Like here, like you said,
that was
Chris,
awesome.
That was very good.
That was awesome.
Oh yeah, so I'd probably go Bob, Nish, and Aisling, and Mark and Sally were fine. Like, yes, Sally's also had some very entertaining and outside the box thinking, we'll say, approaches to certain tasks.
The fucking water cooler.
I mean, Aisling came on my radar real quick because when she was Cuddlebot, that was like, that had me rolling. That was the first thing that I like.
That was the first that was the first challenge.
Yep.
Yeah, but like right away, that was the first thing that got me rolling. But I have to say, probably I was rooting for Nish the most because I probably identify with him the most.
Fair enough.
Sure. Yeah. So obviously, like, Nish is like the one that you know is going to fail, that you're like kind of hoping he succeeds.
I can't wait to see how he fails, basically, is what you're thinking.
Yeah. You know, he might have been my favorite like personality on this show, but you know, by like the third episode, there's no chance he can possibly win. I really liked all these people at different points during the show. Like, best, there are moments where Sally is like outrageously hilarious because, and she like plays off of her being a little bit older to like do the craziest shit that you would never expect her to do, like fucking water cooler. But like, you know, and Aisling has those really funny moments. Mark is the one that kind of like reminds me of how I think I would be on a show like this. Like, he just seems to like really clam up a lot and like, all right, what's the most crazy thing that I could possibly...
felt like, to your point, Steve, it's funny because like I felt like I would identify with Mark like on paper in a sense, and like I sort of do, but as it went on, I was like, I'm not really quite him, but I get where he's coming from, and I can see parts of me in him. Yeah.
He always seems to like try and source the problem out to like the internet, or like
he sits there wasting half the time like trying to figure out how to do it, and then he has half the time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And
I like the thing where he's just like, we added this little thing just for Marky. It's like, you can't say anything that's got any of the letters in Taskmaster.
So while we're reminiscing, though, what I wanted to do was go through what your favorite task was, or highlights. We've been kind of doing that already, but I think one of the highlights for me is in the final episode, they do the songs for the random woman. And what I loved about it, and I'm glad that, first of all, the editing in the show is amazing.
Fuck you, but
That they
yes,
craft
it's
narratives
spot on.
over the course. And they don't know how they're going to score it, but they kind of craft narratives. So they gave Mark and Nish their victory
Yeah.
of having just perhaps one of the best performances in Taskmaster. And this
touching
song to
written in
a
10
woman
minutes.
who just sits there stone faced the entire time.
Well, you get to
the
find out that they're both actually fairly talented musicians,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Even then, I think Craig goes like, he's like, I didn't know you could play guitar and sing this.
Yeah.
But that's I think the highlight of. Unfortunately, that's not one I think you can show people, like, even though I think it's one of the best scenes in Taskmaster,
Out of
because
context, it won't.
you need to know who these people are
Yeah,
in
you need
order
to build
to
up-
really enjoy their victory there.
Yeah, you need the build up of the whole season for that. Like, especially with Nish, like getting shit on the whole season. Like,
What's
having his
awesome,
moment in the last episode is so perfect.
what's awesome about that is like Ashlyn can like flip flop between the two, but you had the two goofballs sing the most sincere song. And then you had the two straight people with Ashlyn sing the most ridiculous, like, what did they say? Like,
Rosalind's a fucking nightmare.
You're a fucking
wasn't
nightmare.
the song like "You're a fucking mess" or something like that?
Nightmare.
You're a fucking
That
nightmare.
was the chorus that he wrote. Like her, so the Randall person, she was a probably like middle-aged woman. Her name was Rosalind, and their chorus was Rosalind. She's a fucking nightmare.
So favorite
All right,
server.
so I'm trying to tie it in to your point. I'll cover the editing and what I thought was like some of the best, my favorite stunts or tests. Right, so there's one where they have to put a basketball into the hoop without touching it. Like they can do whatever else they want, just can't touch it with their hands. So Nish just goes, of course, like I'm just gonna chip, like soccer style, chip it in, right? So it cuts to him. He's like, Alex goes, "All right, Craig, you want to see Nish's attempt?" And of course, it cuts to him like doing it, like, and it's as if he did it in the first try, and everyone's like cheering. He's like stands up and he's like, "Oh, do you want to see his other attempts?" And it's like 60 other times he tried it, and like all he sees like he did this. He accused the basketball of being racist 5 times. Like that was just. I was dying over, like doubling over in laughter with that because it's the editing, because like you said, it builds up for like that was like the 3rd or 4th episode, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
So you already been, if you're watching in order, it's been established like how he is and whatever. So that was really fun.
That was actually the first episode.
Was it really? Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe not, but like it was established enough. It wasn't. I think it was a later challenge.
It was the last challenge before the live challenge. So like it was the 4th challenge on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
So then the other one I liked quite a bit was they have 3 items and 3 different tasks, and they can open like in any order. So usually they only get 1 task for the most part, like do one thing, whatever. Right. This was a table with 3 like food items.
Oh, I was gonna
And
say this one.
You had to. Yeah, I mean, it's fucking great because it fucks with people. So it's like it's a jelly, like a thing of Jello, just like sitting out and without a cup, a little like twig snack thing, and sort of a granola bar, like whatever the British equivalent is.
A Weetabix and a Twiglet.
Yeah. So they had to like balance one item on a pole, throw one into a bucket, and eat one. Now the thing is, some people like read the first thing and just ate whatever it was. And then, like Bob and Sally, I think, read all 3 and then figured out what they're gonna do with them. So like that was just perfect because it sort of combines a lot of the elements that had already been set up throughout it. And it was a bit more of a complex challenge, and it was very fucking funny.
But Sally's a fucking legend on that one. You forgot about this part. Because for some unknown reason, she reads all 3 of them, saves the jelly for last to try and throw into a fucking bucket. If she misses, it's going to be everywhere. Like,
And in
disqualification
fact,
immediately, and nails it on the first throw.
Yep.
It was fucking
She
incredible.
right. She indeed does kill it, like a la the opposite editing of Nish. She really did threw it like right in, first try, boom, and killed it. Yeah.
While Nish is dissolved in his
yeah.
hands.
Weetabix breaks into a million pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, Chris.
I was gonna say my favorite thing again was the short films where they had to put a GoPro on their head, because the first one was Mark, spoilers, and it looks like he's riding a dirt bike. Turns out he's watching
a video.
which was amazing. Nish's thing of him doing Sudoku. And then like what's his name? The host is just like, you even did this
Right.
Sudoku wrong.
Catch it. You wouldn't even do it Sudoku, right? Yeah.
But like but Ashlyn's was great. She did she did a version of Taken with stick figures and the
By
birth
Spoonie
of,
Neeson.
the birth of Alex that Sally did was hilarious.
Yeah.
But Bob's was absolutely incredibly off the charts. I mean, this is not what I would expect at that point in the series. That is not what I would have expected from Bob, because he was talking about he's gonna, film himself taking a shit or something like that. And Bob basically did a reverse shot, like looking down at himself in a box of Cheetos and then looking up, and basically was just like
Came out of the Cheetos. Yeah,
this thing.
it was very brilliant.
Yeah. So I mean, they're all five of them were fucking brilliant in their own ways. I mean, they all really took a snapshot of who they were inside as well as outside. I thought that was quite brilliant.
No, I agree. So I got one more for you. Another challenge I liked because, of course, again, it encapsulated, it sort of solidified why I like Nish and why he's so entertaining. It's where they're in a dark room, like it's all like a black room, and there's some fluorescent tape, right? So essentially the challenge is they have to paint a rainbow scene without being able to see what the colors of the paints are. But like the rims of the paint cans are like highlighted so you can see at least where they are. And Nish apparently didn't he had to figure out what he just goes, oh, I can't see the colors. It just dawns on him what exactly the challenge is here. And it was just a perfect moment. So I like that one quite a bit.
But Nish does figure out that you can figure out what color they are by smelling them in that challenge, which is pretty impressive.
Well, what's funny is Mark is the only one to figure out that there was a light in the room.
Yeah, because it turns on the light. He's like, does Sam can't turn this on? No? All right.
One of the challenges that you can't turn the lights on. He looks over at the wall, sees the light switch and fluorescent tape, and just flicks it on.
Actually, that's a great thing that I want to segue on. One of the, I think, brilliant aspects of, did you have something to say?
Hang on. I haven't done one yet. I'm just gonna quickly mention actually one of the specials. So they give Mark a special challenge that only he had to do. He assumed everyone else had to do it, but he has to send a cheeky text to Greg every day for 5 months. So he has 100
anonymously, by the way. Yeah.
What's that?
Anonymously,
So Greg had no idea who this was, sending him fucking text messages. They read some of them; they're hilarious. But the funniest part about this is Mark is clearly a very anxious, fastidious person. So it's been eating at him for the last 5 months. He missed 2 days. He spent 158 out of 160 that he's supposed to send. And Greg's like, well, I'm not giving you any points then. Get the fuck out of here. It's dissolve into a puddle.
That was my life for months.
Yeah, you're right. Not only was he obsessed with that, but he assumed everyone was doing it, but it was just him, and he got nothing for it. Yeah, quite good.
They have there's a similar one. I think this is on the second season where this really dour individual has to spend an hour in a play thing, having the most fun possible, and it's just him just glowering there. They have those kind of jokes about. But going to the point I was going to make is that one of the things I love, being a linguist and all that, is the interpretations of the tasks. As the seasons progress in this, they get kind of a little bit more specific on what they can kind of do. But what part of the joy is having people figure out ways to beat the system.
Mm-hmm.
And
all right, you go on. But I got
I'm just saying that. Yeah, go ahead.
Where the setup is, so sometimes they all stay in the house, and sometimes they're doing things around the house. Sometimes they bring them to a location for something, right? So there's one where they've got a fucking shopping cart full of cans and a table, and then Alex is there. Alex is always the host. He's explaining the task or giving him the task to read out. And so whoever showed up, each one by one, they have a little rope tied to the table. And he's like, would you please step inside the rope and put it around your waist? So everyone does it. And so now the task is to make a big mountain of cans, but nowhere in the task does it say you have to be tied to the rope. So Bob just goes, doesn't say you have to do this, right? He just fucking takes it off. He's like, yep, totally fine, because it didn't say that. Yeah. Everyone else kept it around their waist the whole fucking time, right?
It's
cheeky little things like that, if you will. Yeah,
it's like the coconut bobsled at the end, because they had the coconut rack that you could strap to the skateboard that's got little things. Everybody walked in because you weren't allowed, if you used any piece of equipment that anybody else did, you were disqualified. So everybody walked in thinking that would be the first thing.
It's a mindfuck. It's so good.
Chosen. So None of them used it.
As Mark said, it's a prisoner's dilemma.
I mean, I'm glad you point out. He
Yeah.
literally, he's like, "Oh, it's a prisoner's dilemma, isn't it?" It's like, obviously, like everyone else is thinking not to use it, so maybe I should.
Yeah. It man,
Other moments
like
like
so there was the one like in the last episode they were trying to get a coconut as far from the Taskmaster house as possible, and Sally just goes, "Hey Alex, go and bring this to the post office and mail it to Fiji."
Yep.
He's like, "All right, I guess." He's like, "Are you gonna give me some money for this?" "Yeah, I'll buy it." Yeah.
She's like, "I'll pay for it," but yeah, nowhere in the rules does it say she couldn't ask him to do that. So
And they couldn't mail it to Fiji because it's illegal to mail.
not mail live fruits and stuff. Yeah.
It was like a whole list of things, and coconut was a specific thing. It wasn't like all fruits. It was like whatever.
I think it was organic consumables. They whatever. They read it out, but yeah, like they're like, "You can't mail this to Fiji." So they're like, so I ended up about a mile and a half away at the post box, whatever the closest one is to their fucking house.
Which is still by far the furthest
Still
away.
won it like huge, but yeah.
I like
Was it a post office in Slough? Was that? Yeah.
I forget what town it was, but yeah.
Mhm.
I liked how Mark got the sound guy to give him a piggyback all the way to the river, but
Yeah,
he took a step. So he got all the way
It's
there.
on the
He got disqualified before he could even throw the coconut into the river.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other moments like that, Chris, where, for example, so the challenge I just said, the one with the shopping cart and cans, as part of that as well, they had to, every 10 seconds while they're making their stack of cans, they had to go over to Alex and say, "I'm from X country," and you couldn't repeat countries, I don't think.
No.
And also had to be every 10 seconds. So Aisling started it, and like, she's like, "I went through like 50 countries," and he's like, "Yeah, but in the replay, you took 1 second too long the first time, so you're disqualified. Like, you didn't actually do it."
Yeah, we didn't even notice that you got it wrong, but until replay, yeah, you're out after.
Yeah, there's like various moments like that, and yeah, like you're like, it sucks, but it of course is entertaining and funny as well.
One of the things I heard is that the beauty of the show is that one, it's high pressure situations which you get to be clever on, but nor is it high pressure like you would think about kind of an American thing. It's because it's for fun. It's just a joking around nothing. So you can't hide people's true personalities. You're as weird and as goofy as like basically 10 minutes, make a film, go. And then it's like whatever first comes to your mind. That's why I think I feel like you really actually get to see
It's a window into
everyone. Yeah. I feel like I have a window. I almost personally know everyone in this, in a sense that level of kind of intimacy that you get with the individuals.
Who they are,
And,
how they think, and how they approach. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of like why it's like not only is it entertaining like for what it is sort of as a spectacle, but you get to sort of know these people, and you can sort of like sometimes I'd be like, I want to predict like Mark's gonna probably do it this way. Bob's just gonna like sit down and be like, well, I'll clever like again, he's an older gentleman, right? A bit older generation. So like he sort of has the experience, like I said, to like suss it out and figure out like how not to like do something, like how to make it work without being ridiculous, or like again, or going by the letter of the actual task and working around that. So yeah.
Any other comments, or should I wrap this up with? All right.
You're the Taskmaster.
It's the right now the series 10 is going on of Taskmaster.
Are they
It's got,
still doing more on afterwards?
Yeah, it's a huge phenomenon, both internationally.
So I'm saying it's not.
It's
right?
big everywhere but the U.S. In this current one is Johnny Vegas and Jen from the IT crowd. I forget her actual name, but nonetheless, I still think it's up to, even though they're doing it through COVID, so they're all kind of separated. And what's interesting is in series 10 doesn't have an audience. It doesn't have a laugh track.
Oh, yeah.
It's really raw. You live and die by how you can make the other contestants laugh. And it's but it still works for me, and I'm hoping that there's a long lifespan on the show.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's highly entertaining. Like it was a fun and funny thing that you basically taskmastered us with watching Taskmaster. So again, we watched series 5, and any of them are really cool. Like, so again, if you haven't heard of it or looking for something to do, like you said, it's cool of them that they're putting it out on their own channel to like sort of like a lot of the fan base or a lot of people got into it because it was something to do during the pandemic and because it's very entertaining and again, crushable, bingeable.
Well, what season were you watching, Siva? You're saying Or
we moved on to season 4. I watched only the first episode of that one, but
well, it's got Noel Fielding in it, and from the Mighty Boosh and other things. I think he's one of the more recognizable figures that you might see from American points.
yeah.
But yeah, it's very funny, very British. Again, greatly edited, highly entertaining, and it's just a cool thing to watch if you haven't heard of it, or if you have only seen a few, watch more of it because I had a great time with it myself. And like I said, I started looking forward to all right, time to fucking watch the next episode of Taskmaster and see what Nish does, see what Bob's gonna do, see what Sally craziness comes up with.
Yeah, so they're all up on Netflix now, aside from 8, 9, and 10. So you can watch the first, I think, 7 seasons.
What's on Netflix as well? Or
no, sorry, not Netflix, YouTube.
You have YouTube channel,
well, all right. Well, if that's all, I'm Jonathan Ian Manzer with Scott Thurler.
Do I win? Who's the winner of this episode? You didn't score the points.
We're all the losers. Stephen Ramosi.
Time for me to go play with my little Alex Horn.
Hey, Christopher Morgan.
Ah, shit.
Shit and piss.
Shit and piss.
And with that, thank you for joining us. Good night. See you next time. Cheers.
Editing and engineering by Jonathan Ian Manzer. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Or mods?